1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Oui. Un, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I don't know why, because they work.
You know, c'est les règles de Murphy. When you need it, it doesn't work.
They work. You don't have to touch anything. Un, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Maybe the voice, the sound was
No, it was good,
done
but
from somewhere.
maybe you mute it or something like that. But it's okay now. Moi, je testais les micros pour être sûr, mais je peux la mettre là.
done and get started again.
Okay, colleagues, please, if we could take our seats and we'll start the next session. Thank you.
Hello? Can you hear me? Parfait. I hope you all have your warm coffee with you because we are moving into session 2. So welcome to the enabling environment for investment in water security. Of course, we are delighted to have you here. I'm Delia Sanchez from the Environment Directorate. So to make it brief, we will have a short presentation from the OECD on the key findings from the analysis in the region. Then we will move, of course, by my colleague Guy Harper next to me. Then we will move into a moderate discussion focusing on the opportunities and barriers for investment in water security in the region. This conversation aims to move from, we need capacity building, we need to move from projects. We want to be extremely specific on what we are talking, what is required. And for that, we need, of course, our dear panelists, but all of you. So don't hesitate to, there will be a moment for questions, more questions, and more answers. So with that, I'm honored to have such a high-level panel of speakers with us to discuss the crucial conditions for attracting and maintaining investment in the region. First, from Armenia, I'm sure you have seen him already on stage, Dr. Tigran Gabrielian, Deputy Minister of Environment. In 2018, he was appointed as Deputy Minister of Agriculture and later Economy. In 2002, he took the appointment of Deputy Minister of Environment, and among many other responsibilities, he coordinates water resource management in the country. From ADB, we have Maria Pia and Cora online, Senior Water Development Specialist. I don't know if we can put her image, just everybody knows who we are talking with. Maria Pia, can you hear us? Are you there? We hope so. Perfect, we can see you. Welcome, Maria. So for the last 20 years, she designed and implemented sustainable urban infrastructure investment and offer environmental policy advisory in Asia, including China and India. Since 2019, she oversees ADB Urban Water and Climate Program in the Caucasus region. Then, moving to the private sector, we have here Francisco Atanasio, Head of Treasury in the finance team from Aquaria, a private company operating water services. He's responsible of managing the financial actions of the company and the development of financial and investment strategy. Welcome. And last but not least, we are honored to have with us Lucette Kroon, Chair of the International Dutch Water Authorities and Chair of one of the 21 Dutch water authorities. She's also a board member of the Association of Dutch Water Authorities, and her portfolio includes innovation, education, and international cooperation. With such distinguished guests, I'm confident that the discussion will be informative and engaging, and I count on all of you in the audience to participate. So let us begin. Let's go, Guy.
Thank you very much, Delia. I have a small presentation, which I'm wondering if it could go on screen. It's already very short. It's just 4 slides, but I'm going to make it even shorter because I want to get straight to the discussion. So I just wanted to briefly introduce the OECD Enabling Environment for Investment in Water Security Assessment. This is a tool that has been developed at the OECD that has been initially developed with the cooperation of the ADB and first piloted in Asia, and we've now been using it in the Eastern Partnership countries. And it's a super exciting tool for us. It's a lot of bringing to life dry information to create a holistic vision of what is going on at each country at the national level in terms of enabling the access to finance for water. So very quickly, to look at the actual structure of it, it starts very broad. We look at the overall investment policy framework. So not for the water sector, but in general, how attractive is this country for investment? Then we zoom into the water policy framework. What policies are in place around the water sector, around financing water, around decentralization versus centralization, how utilities are regulated. We look at water projects, and in this we also zoom into specific sectors. So we're looking at irrigation, agriculture, we're looking at drinking water, wastewater. So it brings together a huge wealth of information that a lot of it is often difficult to access, and so we rely a lot on national consultants to help us gather the information to develop the assessments. And it brings together pieces that are, maybe that knowledge is out there, but it's not all in one holistic frame. We don't have this view of what is going on at the national level, and how can that accelerate finance. So just to give a quick idea of what even a high-level look at Dimension 1 is, so we have, this is the investment policy framework, and here, some of the kind of added value of using this scorecard approach is we also develop a comparability between countries. Countries can benchmark themselves. We're still finalizing the assessment for the Eastern Partner countries. And you can see already the preliminary results in the background document that's been circulated for today's session. So what you're seeing here is European OECD member countries, American OECD member countries, and Asia-Pacific OECD member countries. And as you can see, it provides a basis for benchmarking and for helping track country progress over time. And just to move quickly through to the end of this presentation, the reason we're super excited about this is that in Eastern Partnership countries, we know there's enormous demand for finance for the water sector. We know that there is a lot of movement, a lot of change that's happened, but there's still a huge need for investment. We also know that there's a lot of availability of money out there for the water sector. We've already heard today from EBRD, from EIB, we're going to hear from ADB. There is significant finance that is allocated for the water sector. So we want to better understand why, if there's the demand and there's the availability, how we bridge that gap and how we make that happen. So thank you very much, and I'll pass it back to Delia.
Thank you very much, Guy. So, Dr. Tigran, Armenia has been a pioneering country assessing the enabling environment for investment in water security. And today, the report is out. So thank you very much for this collaboration. And we really admire the work that has been done by Armenia government to put in place this assessment. And we understand that this process has led to some reforms or discussion around reforms, including the drafting of a water security strategy. Could you please explain how this assessment has helped you to inform these decisions, and how this discussion on the water security strategy will address some of the barriers and opportunities that were identified through the assessment?
Okay, if it's possible, I'd like to shortly present our job is done jobs, if it's possible, and after that, if will be question. Presentation, I mean present. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, dear colleague. Many thanks. I would like to reflect of the work of assessing enabling environment for investment for water security in Armenia, performed within the OECD component of the EU Environment, Water and Data Project. Armenia, like many nations, faced the challenging task of the mobilizing substantial investment in water security. This is vital for our sustainable development and economic growth. The OECD team has developed an innovative scores to access the enabling coordination for investment in water security. This tool does more than access. It catalyzes policy reform by pinpointing investment barriers in water security. It serves as a random for us to identify and act upon crucial areas needing attention. The tool assessed 4 dimensions of investment in water security. These include the Armenia Overall Policy Framework for Investment, the Water-Specific Policy Framework for several subsectors, the visibility of the making project bankable and sustainable, and the contribution of the economic sector. Each dimension is critical and interlinked, emphasizing the necessity of the collaborate between ministries and stakeholders. The tool helped to bridge the current data gap and advocate for an unchanged data availability from both public and private sources. The assessment result demonstrate significant progress in the area like drinking water policy, where private investment has been efficiently attracted. However, we also face challenge, including extending service to remote areas and ensuring the financial sustainability of the water service. The assessment performed provide also sector-specific insight. The in-depth analysis revealed dispute between sectors. For instance, our water resource management is robust, but its effectiveness is hindered by the inadequate application of economic instruments. Sanitation and irrigation sectors show lower source, indicating a need for update plans and regulatory improvements. The results were discussed and presented to national stakeholders, including Ministry of Environment, Water Committee, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Economy, Public Service, Regulatory Commissions, Water User Association, donors, civil society, and other stakeholders. The discussion during the workshop highlighted 3 priority actions. First, developing a comprehensive national water security strategy. Second, adopting a detailed investment plan for key sectors. And third, expanding legal and regulatory frameworks to include the unserved 20% of our population. In terms of future direction and commitment, I would like to mention that these priorities are not just action items. There are commitments to our national future. The assessment helped us to identify barriers and conditions which have a leverage effect in the whole enabling environment for sustainable investment. Talking this barrier sends a strong message to potential investors about our seriousness and strategic approach. It also paves the way for a holistic improvement across all enabling conditions identified, allowing lower transaction cost and better investment coordination. In a conclusion, let me stress the assessment has helped to identify priority barriers as well as to identify leverage opportunities, and we are planning to continue discussion with the Ministries of Finance, Economy, the Investment Support Center, and representative of public and private investors. We are dedicated to overcoming these barriers, ensuring a sustainable and secure water future of Armenia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and we really look forward to see that water security strategy, as you say, is going to send a strong message to potential investors, giving key information on what assets are required, what are the unit costs, what are the investment plans required. So thank you very much for this insight. So Dr. Maria Pia, I think you can hear us. So ADB was the first one willing and brave enough to collaborate with the OECD to do the scorecard assessment, and we did a first pilot test in 7 Asian countries. And could you please let us know, as a donor, what is the added value of having this type of assessment in a region or in a particular country, as well as from ADB, what are your initiatives or investment that you are currently undertaking that address the identified barriers?
Thank you, Delia, and I hope you can hear me.
Perfectly.
Thank you, and good afternoon to you, my peer speakers, and all the people in the room. I apologize for not being in person for this very productive and enjoyable conversation today. But I'm grateful for the OECD to nevertheless provide ADB with the chance to comment on this tool and contribute to the discussion. I find this assessment extremely helpful for many reasons, but in particular because it offers let's say, transparent, structured, and holistic analysis that we and other donors can use to in our dialogue with the client. So in that sense, it's a neutral type of document. It's very systematic, and it also provides very actionable recommendations for policy reforms. And policy reforms that we can introduce through our loans. In fact, more and more ADB is shifting the, let's say, type of lending modality from the classic infrastructure projects to lending modalities which enable us to have more of an impact in terms of reforms. And I will definitely make use of the results of the ongoing assessment for the Eastern countries, in particular for Georgia, for an upcoming investment loan in rural water supply and sanitation in the country. But if you want, we conducted the similar assessment leading up to the preparation of the latest water supply and sanitation loan for Georgia, which we approved in 2020, where we were able to sort of influence the policy making by basically triggering the approval of the first water law for the country, by by soliciting and approving the preparation of the first water supply and sanitation sector development framework, which goes from 2021-2030. So I find this is an extremely important tool, and I will be using it actually also as a framework to evaluate the impact that the approved project has had or will have on the urban water supply and sanitation agenda. Perhaps from my side, I think we highlighted, when we were discussing this session, we highlighted how one of the key contributions from the tools is also the provision of data, let's say standardized data, which can be used and shared among other donors. And in that sense, perhaps one tiny suggestion that I would have on the tool is to, if it's possible in its iterations, to perhaps place more emphasis on gender disaggregated data. We have ever more stringent targets on gender in ADB, as well as of course climate change. But more disaggregated data on gender would be useful in preparing new projects, but also more emphasis on digitization, which we know is important for improving energy efficiency and in general more effective and efficient management of water resources, of water utilities, everything from HR to precision agriculture to everything. So that's a tiny suggestion from me. So you were asking what we are already, what we're doing in Georgia. I'm privileged. I'm based in the field, so I have, let's say, very close consultations with my counterparts, and I see many of my colleagues and friends in the room, in the virtual room as well. And I was privileged to, I'm based in Georgia now, and I was privileged to be in Armenia just before my stint in Georgia. And I really liked the assessments, conclusions on the fact that both rural areas and both the environmental side of things are a bit neglected in these two countries, and those are areas where, in fact, we have already started as ADB, like providing technical assistance. I'm very pleased to say that this assistance is fully coordinated with the European Union and with the other European affiliated bank, let's call it that way. And I hope we can continue it in that sense. We have initiated a large management strategy development for Georgia, which was missing. This is done in partnership with the Ministry of Environment of Georgia and the Ministry of Regional Development, represented in your room by Deputy Minister Giorgio Bani. And we think this is a very important gap to be filled. It's compatible with the circular economy ambitions that the government of Georgia has. And it's compatible with the holistic approach that we want to take to the water sector, or the water team, as we call it. We, from ADB side, it's already been a few years that we have reoriented ourselves towards being the climate bank of Asia, right? So we have already conducted climate risk assessments, both in Armenia and Georgia, which inform the design of our projects. And honestly, we do provide a lot of capacity buildings to our partner or client agencies. And I think, again, it's important that we do it together in a concerted way, together with the other donors. One thing perhaps that I've noticed, again, being very hands-on in the operations, is that when we talk about private sector and enabling private sector and PPP agreements, I personally find, and it's a critique to ourselves, but perhaps a message for our client, our water utilities, our agencies, to demand more assistance from us when it comes to private sector operations and PPP agreements. I've noticed that very often we're very good at preparing that sort of agreement, but then we leave a bit too early, and we leave the contractual arrangements fully to the client, which, of course, we want to ensure ownership and we want to ensure full accountability. But I find that, unfortunately, often these PPP agreements tend to sort of, in my experience, neglect the environmental externalities and public goods. So the sanitation part of things is often not well designed. The sanitation infrastructure investment, let's say, commitments are not that well designed or could be improved. And of course, this is part of the overall, let's say, policy framework and policy context, whereby, of course, the country itself needs to also commit and follow through with commitments on water tariffs. But I find all of this could be better designed. That's my experience. These are some of the points that I wanted to mention, but I'll be happy to share more in the remainder of the session. Thank you, Delia.
Thank you very much, Dr. Maria Pia, for this very insightful point that I'm taking with me, and I hope the audience is taking also with them on today's meeting. Then, talking about PPPs and the private sector, we are very lucky to have today Aqualia. So, if I'm not wrong, so please correct me if it's not the case, in 2021, Georgia Capital, the holding company of Georgia Global Utility, entered into a share purchase agreement with Aqualia. So could you please share your experience as a private investor in the region, including the barriers and opportunities you have overcome, and let us know what it looks like the future for you in the region?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah, that's correct. In 2021, Aqualia finally bought the control percentage over GGU, Georgian Global Utilities. But to provide you with some background, back in 2008, the Tbilisi municipality launched a tender for the operation of the management of all the infrastructure regarding the water operation in Tbilisi, and at the same time selling the infrastructure there. At that time, Aqualia was already active in the region because, more or less in the region. We were purchasing another asset very similar to GGU, that is called Esenbach in the Czech Republic. We are providing there water service to the region of Silesia, close to the Poland border. And but in that tender, we were attending with Veolia, which I see here in the meeting room as well, and Multiplex, which finally was the awarder, Russian owner, and we were nevertheless not giving up on the asset, so we were closely following the way that the company was performing and so on. I think it was in 2017, the company was bought by Bank of Georgia, one of the big institutions there in the country, and we got in contact with them in 2020, at the beginning of 2021, and since we were aware that the bank was eager to rotate their assets, and so we entered in conversations with them and finally crystallized at the end of the year. For us, as a private, Georgia represents something like, I don't know, a very big opportunity, a very weird or rare opportunity in the region. Why so? It's because they were launching this tender when the rest of the countries that surrounded Georgia were very, very far away of that phase, I will say. So we understood that Georgia implemented in that moment political changes that allow the private to get interested in the country. Moreover, in 2017, they introduced a regulator for water. It was previously for gas and electricity, but in 2017 it was also implemented for water. And they have a regulatory system for the tariffs that, as a water operator, private water operator, is very important, because it provides the private with a very good visibility about incomes, tariffs, investments, and then, of course, OPEX as well. Okay, so I think in the case of Georgia, what Aqualia saw was actually in the past a very strong political will to get the private sector intervening in the water business, and then all the development within these years, we see as this opportunity has actually grown. And that's why, even after many, many years, we approach Bank of Georgia to get the assets, in which we have 2-3 years more or less of activity, and I can only say that we are very, very happy with that.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much for this successful story in the region that we hope is one of the first, but not the last. So then a very different perspective going to the Netherlands. So the audience might be surprised to see the Netherlands between us in an Eastern Partner discussion. However, the Netherlands is carrying out currently the same assessment as Armenia did on the enabling environment for investment. So I would like to ask you, Lucette, if you could please share the experience of the Netherlands that might seem distant in terms of the geographic reality, but might be closer than people expect in terms of what policy reforms, what changes the Dutch authorities have been pushing and continuously, and what is still left to you, with all the, water quality issues we hear, all the droughts we hear that previously were not that common in the Netherlands.
Well, thank you. And I don't want to start with a disclaimer, but it took us 800 years to get where we are now. So actually, the Dutch water authorities, where I'm actually the chair of one of the 21 Dutch water authorities in the Netherlands, they are over 800 years old. It's the oldest democratic form that we have in the Netherlands. So there's a lot of work to do, but still we learn every day, also from cooperating with other countries and partnerships that we are in. And actually, the Dutch water authorities are in a cooperation with Romania in the Blue Deal partnership. And that means a transition of knowledge, and it means that we help in supporting them in building up a strong water governance with water taxing systems as well. So to start, adequate financing is really, really important for good water management. And I can't say this enough, especially leaving the water forum last week in Indonesia, on Bali, where we learned that it's still a long way to go for good water management. Thus, we should be learning. And maybe one of the things that I would like to state here is that investments should need more than just the amount of money for the asset. It should also be including maintenance and perhaps even wages for staff. So we have an investment that is durable, that is sustainable for a long term. And in the end, it will repay itself if we turn to other means. The Dutch Water Authority is a public organization, and I'm very, very pleased that we are in public hands. So we are highly decentralized, and we have a very large way of local know-how. So that's very important. And we scaled up, I said 800 years ago, but only in around 1815, where we still had over 3,000 water authorities, and at this moment we have only 21 Dutch water authorities. So we function on a regional level, well, more or less like the provinces in the Netherlands. We have a sort of kind of understanding that we say you have a stake, so you pay and you get a say. Dutch water authorities they have elections every 4 years. We have a council and they make the decisions. Although we only have 3 tasks. It's a functional democracy, and we are about water safety. We are about sufficient water in dry periods, but also get rid of the over amount of water. And we are responsible for water quality. We do that in cooperation with our Dutch government, of which our envoy, I think Maaike already told something about the Dutch water systems this morning. And we do it also with municipalities. So there's, over the layers in government, we have these responsibilities and we integrate a lot of the decision making. Like I said, water safety is about flood protection. The regional water system, which is very challenging because we have a very technical system at this moment, and we have to do more with nature-based solutions as well in the Netherlands. And actually we are at the end of the pipe from several rivers in European system. So if there is too much water, then we get in the Netherlands too much water. And if there's a shortage of water, then we get less water, we have the scarcity, and though we have a problem with the quality of water. How are we organized in the financing way? Well, we have a total water investment in the Netherlands of 8.2 billion a year. 10% of this 8.2 is provided by state, and then I'm talking about flood protection. Actually, it's only 0.5% of the annual state budget. So the water authorities, they provide a lot of the taxation of the income. The lion's share, 7.1 billion, is financed by taxation in the water system by the water authorities, and we have our own taxation system. They are provided by households, by farmers or nature organizations, and by companies. The system is based on key principles. If you are a polluter, if you are a polluter, if you are a beneficiary, or you have user pay. So there are several kinds of pays in this water system. We have a system tax, we have a wastewater treatment tax, and we have a pollution tax. The latter two, they are combined. So we have the quality task and we have the system tasks. And then per household, in an average water authority, the amount of money paid to the water authorities is about 380 euros. And I can see the faces, wow, we are a long way from asking our inhabitants paying 380 euros to a water authority. Though I would challenge you, start. Start somewhere. Start with a few euros for water safety. Or if you have a base, then you can continue. And you have to prove that the money is spent. So, like I say, start with a few euros or whatever currency you have per household. In future perspective, we also see in Dutch water authorities that this amount of money that we gather probably won't be enough because of the climate change. We face sea level rise, we face drought, we face floods, and I think every country in Europe is facing the same things. So we need to adapt our water system as well. And that means that we have to make sure that we include other kinds of solutions, like nature-based solutions. We have a large program, also together with our national government, for retention. We have space for the rivers, which provided to be very helpful during the last winter period. And we have to strengthen our dikes, and that means that the dikes should be broader and future-proof, because sea level will rise. And therefore, maybe my challenge is for a robust financing system. So I can say, look at the Dutch and try to figure it out, but look at your own country and find out what is accessible for you and what works. And I also challenge both private companies, but also the investing companies. Like I said earlier, we learned that a lot of the investment money is only for the assets. And then what we see, in effect, is that assets are left, they have to be maintained, and they have to be renewed several times. So include in the investment amount, include in the quality aspects that you ask in the investment, not only to be climate sustainable, but also make sure that you are future-proof by maintaining, and make sure there's our people who can maintain. And also for the private sector, I think a lot of the governments and water authorities in the Netherlands as well, we are the launching customer for initiatives. And what we also see is there is a huge gap between an idea, an innovative idea, and a well-established company which can survive on its own. And therefore, launching customer means that you have a responsibility also in make sure that you have the private sector included, and you can build together a future-proof organization. So that combines to the holistic approach that you mentioned earlier in this speech. Thank you.
Thank you to you for these key messages, which cannot be more aligned with some of the findings we find, like efficient economic instruments are needed. This is the basis of the Dutch model. Of course, don't only look at CapEx, OpEx, look at maintenance, and that means having balanced contract agreements between private and public, that really cover the sustainability and the future of the investment. So thank you very much for all these points. And then we will move into group questions. So I have two questions. One is for private sector and ADB in relation to data, because we always hear, as an investor, I need data to make a decision. You were saying the process, the number of years, how you have been following the performance of the operators. Could you please let us know, Francisco, from your perspective of a private investor, what do you need to see on the table? What is the key indicators, data that government or other stakeholders could provide you that are needed to convince you?
Well, I guess there is no mean in going very deep into the detail regarding this matter, but conceptually, as private operator, we have to see that the legal framework, the legal framework regarding the water operations, and then the structure of the country in a regarding the water policy, or if there is an investment plan that the government wants to, carry out, then it gives us at least the sense of opportunity. But then after, of course, to invest heavily, because water activity is otherwise others, you have to invest a lot of money, usually, to get the results that you require. So it's not, from my perspective, and as private, it's an activity very special, because you are providing something that the people need for surviving, but at the same time, you need to spend a lot of money to get this well done. So as a business, you have to be very clear where are you getting into. And for that, in the case, for example, of Georgia, which I think is a good example of this, we saw that there is, from my perspective, the strong will by the politicians. Then there is a regulator specific for the water activity, and then they implement a tariff update mechanism, which is, more or less aligned with what you have seen in other places more developed, So all in all, then if the authority can give you a very good idea of what they want or where they want to reach, for us as a private operator, we see that there a very good opportunity. And taking the chance to not answer, but I think private sector cannot do everything. Public sector, in my opinion, cannot do everything. So I think the PPP projects in regions, for example, Georgia, I think is the answer.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Francisco, for clearly saying it loudly. We need clarity. We need regulation. We need that the governments clearly put in plans, investment plans, where they want to go. Dr. Maria Pia, could you please, as a donor, complement from your perspective? It's true, it's different on the policy lending side, but what do you need in terms of data, of messages, to convince you? What needs to be on the table?
Thank you. From the perspective of ADB, and because you bundled me with the private sector colleague, I guess you were, in this instance, particularly referring to financial management data. But in general, whenever we work with an agency and whenever they benefit from our investment, whether that is technical assistance or loans, we have very stringent covenants and very clear governance on transparency and on disclosure of information. What I've observed is that, in fact, very often there is a problem of capacity, and that is capacity in terms of number of people that are dedicated to the collection of data or to the management of data, and sometimes it's also a matter of skills. So especially when the people are hired on government salaries, perhaps you don't get the same quality, unfortunately. And so what we try to do from our side is try to bring additional resources, is try to complement with advisory services and with the additional, let's say, human capacity, including from our own staff and from contractors to support that capacity. I think we're going in the right direction in Georgia. I didn't clarify earlier, but while ADB sort of enabled the contract with GWP in Tbilisi. The public sector works with the Ministry of Regional Development for everywhere outside of Tbilisi, so like half the population. And indeed, even in our, let's say, monitoring of compliance of loan covenants, we have difficulties when it comes to collecting data, and I can tell that that is going to be a problem also in designing new projects when, let's say, the collection of data of the physical environment in general in these countries, including Georgia, is a bit fragmented. And here is where I think, once again, we are looking at the right direction, and we're going in the right direction, both as ADB and together with other partners, because we are looking at strengthening the national systems for interoperable, standardized data platforms. And in Armenia, in particular, I myself launched the digitization of the national cadastre, which will also, or a geospatial geoportal that will house multiple layers of data, including utilities, including water resources, etc. And in Georgia, I personally find they're a bit more advanced, but there's still some fragmentation that needs some coordination. And again, I think our role as donors is to facilitate that coordination among agencies, but also ensuring that we are encouraging them to look at specifically standardized interoperable data, which is not always obvious, actually. And that is very important for providing that meaningful information for both us and the private sector to design better projects and being able to invest more efficiently. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to you, Maria. Very insightful. And yes, clearly standardization of data is still a big step, but a required step, and we hope the tool can support in that sense. Before we open the floor to the audience, I would like to very quickly ask every one of the dear panelists to say what they will need from any other of the decision-maker representative within the room, as the OECD, the EU, DG NEAR, one request that for a next step in terms of collaboration, how can we strengthen the enabling environment? If you could ask for a wish, what it will be? I will start with the Netherlands. Zet, what would you like to wish?
What would I wish? Well, actually, I think, what would you wish? And I referred to the water conference in Bali, the Water Forum, World Water Forum. And what I learned that it's a very prerogative to live, I'm very privileged, I should say, to live in the Netherlands. Because we have certain kind of ways that we deal with data. And most of the data that we gather as government layers are open data. And I learned this is not the question in a lot of other countries. I don't say it's your country, but this is what I learned around the world. So what I would wish for all of us is that we, in order to make sure that we have a future for our children's children, that we make decisions on the basis of the fair data, the transparent data, and data that we can compare, so that we can work together to make sure that our decisions, which country we are from, can be in the means of what this planet and our children needs for future. So I hope and wish for all of us that we have the courage, and I think what is needed is also, data is not, it's not cheap. You need people, you need monitoring assessments, assets, you need a lot of things. So let's agree that the data that we gather, that we can compare and that we can use in a fair way, that we have facts instead of models on which we can base our solutions.
Thank you very much. Dr. Tigran, what will be your request, your wish to anybody or everybody for Armenia?
Thank you very much. If short, I like to say for us is better if you will have hydrometrical data, because without this monitoring our water resources, we can't do anything without know how much water we have and how much water we are losing, etc. In this case, for us, support staging of water resources is very essential. Thank you very much.
Thank you to you. Francisco, what the private sector would like to wish or request?
I guess from our perspective, the first step is to have, as I mentioned before, a strong political will, okay? And then after, and it was commented here, the collaborations with not only with the municipality or regional authority or the government of each country, but also as well the participation with the IFIs. I want to take the chance that here we have some represented, ADB, IFC, BRD are here. And I think there is a way to run together between the private sector and the IFIs, in the sense that I hear before that they might not be the first choice in actually financing projects, water projects, but I think otherwise. I think IFIs can do what commercial local banks cannot reach in terms of the amount that has to be provided for the investing in this kind of infrastructures, but also because they do take care regarding other aspects that I feel they are fundamental right now, which is the sustainability, the compliance, so all related to corruption. I think private sector and IFIs who run this way together, and I think that will help to smooth the process of financing the very big projects in countries that are needing the most.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that clear message. So, Dr. Maria Pia, any last request to the audience or to any other panelists?
Thank you, Delia. And I would just echo what Dr. Kroon said. Data is precious. And I think all of us, donor community, in the donor community with the private sector could do, I think, more sharing, more open sharing. Sometimes, I think this was mentioned at the London Summit, Water Summit, that sometimes we duplicate our due diligence, and that's really like a waste of money, of very scarce resources. I realized I was mentioning before the climate change risk assessment for the water sector we did for 3 countries in the region, but I wonder how many in the room know about those data, right? And about those reports. And from our side, there is willingness, and I think it's our duty because, unfortunately, often the capacity of coordinating this type, the donors in the countries we work in is rather weak. So I think it's just part of our duties to keep talking among ourselves, and we're doing it, but we could do more. We are about to arrange a water donor table together with EIB in Georgia. And yes, we should just continue to do more, because we could save money and time. And one of the critiques that I think we always get is that it takes too long for us to prepare projects or whether it's public or private. And I think that would help a lot to streamline. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think I'm not wrong. We are a couple of minutes left. We have a couple of minutes left. So is there any question in the room? Anybody that would like to raise any question to the panelists or online? Don't be shy. This is a global problem. Perfect. Thank you very much. Could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you. My name is Ala Al-Dweri, and I work with IUCN. And thank you for a very interesting discussion. Just perhaps relating to data in the water sector, I think it's one of the biggest challenges that we have at hand, because the concept of data is so ingrained in power. So what kind of agency has this technical data and owns this data more or less dictates the terms. So if you have a certain funder or donor come into a certain country, certain ministries, for example, that controls this kind of data, be it the Ministry of Irrigation or Water in most scenarios, actually dictate the terms of what should be funded and what shouldn't be funded and what should be the focus of such projects. And I know Dr. Maria Pia mentioned that donors should do more when it comes to sharing their own data and their own projects, but what about what happens on the other side with governmental institutions? So that, how can we tackle that issue? And the fact that, yeah, the one who controls the water data has the power to dictate the terms, more or less. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that, I would say, direct message. It's really appreciated. Anybody else that would like to ask any question to the panel, any comment, any reflection, anything, or online if we have? No. So if no, we move on. Do I see a question? No? No? Only shy hands. Okay. So I will not try to be comprehensive because I think that was a very rich conversation and I need to process and reflect on all the points that you have all shared with us today. So thank you very much. But there are, for me, some key points that I would like to take away. First, hearing from a donor that the tool is useful and that they will use it, for us, is a success. Let's be honest, like it's been more than 500 indicators trial, 5 countries in Eastern European countries, 7 countries in Asia. So any comment, any feedback, so for example, on the key point of gender, how to include gender, please, the documents we share with you are for comments. So send us an email, come to talk to us. This is the point, to improve and make it better so you have more information. Also, a key point I think is important is about not only project preparation, but project implementation support from donors, and not to neglect the externalities. Also, the key part about contract arrangement and how to make it more fair and balanced for ensuring that maintenance happens for us users and the future generation. Of course, using economic instruments in an efficient way. And I love the message, start with whatever you can. Let's make that a common objective. Let's start with whatever we can in terms of applying efficient economic instruments, because it's one of the key results of the analysis. Also, one key point I would like to take away is the standardize of data and the need, to have common indicators that we can track and all we know what we are talking about. And finally, I will take the beautiful message of collaboration between private sector and donors, and I hope also the public, all of us, putting together oral efforts to finally strengthen the enabling environment, and more important, giving services and improving the environment for all of us. So for me, it's been a pleasure to moderate this session, and this is only the beginning of the conversation, so please continue to discuss this issue or any other that you think is relevant. And if I'm not wrong, the next event will be in the first floor No, not anymore. Matthew, do you want to take over because you have the right information?
Many thanks, Delia, and many thanks to the panel. That was a great session. Thank you. Now we're going to do a brief launch event for the EU, a new EU-funded project, EU for Climate Resilience, and Gerald Ordaz will come and moderate this session for us. And panel, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Matthew. Thank you again to all of you for having been with us this morning for the first half day of our high-level roundtable on the financing of water, and thank you again to the participants online as well who have been following us. So we wanted to seize the opportunity to have you locked up in this room to actually launch a new regional program called EU for Climate Resilience. EU for Climate Resilience is a program that is meant to pursue our cooperation with our Eastern partners in support of our joint climate ambitions. There is no need to recall that our countries are increasingly vulnerable to climate change. It's been said this morning on several occasions. I think its impact on our economies, societies, and on our natural habitat has become self-evident to all of us. As a consequence, as you know, all of our countries have taken pledges in the context of the Paris Agreement and in the following COP meetings to address this challenge. So EU for Climate Resilience is a follow-up to a program that is very well known to many of you, which was called EU for Climate. Under EU for Climate, and with the support of our partner UNDP, we have achieved quite a number of important milestones. Notably, we succeeded in upgrading our nationally determined contributions under the Paris Agreement. But most importantly, we supported these NDC implementation and the financing plans that goes with it. We also successfully supported the establishment of strategies and tools which are critical to understand greenhouse gas sources and trends, and on that basis, design mitigation measures. All of these very important work streams will continue under EU for Climate Resilience in the coming years, including the work done towards supporting legal and policy alignment between the EU and our partner countries. Of course, this is especially important for our Moldovan and Ukrainian partners, with whom, as you know, the European Council decided to open accession negotiations last December, but no less important for our Georgian, Armenian, and Azeri partners, who are also exposed, as all of us, to the impact of climate change, and are, as we know, very eager to continue to contribute to the global efforts to address the root causes of climate change. In this collective endeavor of ours, allow me to pay a special tribute to our Ukrainian colleagues for the resolve that they are showing in mainstreaming climate action in their reform and policy agenda, as was recalled this morning by the Minister of Environment. All the while, Russia's aggressions against Ukraine is continuing. So the EU for Climate Resilience programs we are launching today will be instrumental to cement our cooperation in support to decarbonization, and we aim to achieve that, as I said, through better climate policies, enhanced institutional cooperation and capacity building, and local projects. The work that we will be carrying out with the OECD under EU for Climate Resilience on innovative finance, including green bonds, is of course of high relevance to accelerate the delivery on our climate ambitions, and also covering the water issue. I would like to also announce that local authorities will receive particular attention under this program. We will soon launch a call for proposals for municipalities to implement climate adaptation projects. We want these projects to show the way, of course, to other municipalities, including by favoring the switch from grey to green infrastructure and by implementing cost-effective, nature-based solutions. So I will stop here, but before I conclude, if you allow me, I would like to extend a special thanks to the German Ministry of Environment for contributing substantially to this regional program, but also to our new implementing partner GIZ, who is the German cooperation agency for offering their expertise and their professionalism in support of this project. And again, thank very much the OECD to be part of this project in a true Team Europe spirit. On that note, allow me to give the floor to Mr. Jürgen Keinhorst, who's the, who you met earlier today. He's the head, but I would like to recall that he's the head of division for Eastern Europe, Central Asia, Africa, and the Middle East at the Federal Ministry of Environment and Nature Conservation of Germany. Jürgen, please.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I will not duplicate or repeat what I said this morning, and so far I'm short, and lunch is waiting for all of us. I only wanted to highlight that we perceive it as valuable and as a good pilot, or maybe even more than a pilot, to intensify our cooperation under the Team Europe approach. So this is a project we did not develop in parallel. So we started via our international climate initiative from Germany with a project in our long-standing cooperation with the countries in the Eastern Partnership region on the cooperation regarding promoting Green Deal readiness in the Eastern Partnership countries. So you can translate this to progress. And we wanted to highlight and to support these countries specifically in sectors which are highly relevant for climate, but climate not only mitigation but also adaptation. And referring to this morning session, agriculture is one of the key sectors in the region, which is on the one hand a challenge for climate policy, but on the other side was also providing a lot of opportunities, also economic opportunities. So value chains shall be addressed in this context, so to create business cases. In other areas, for example, tourism, but mainly it will address the agricultural sector, but will not be limited to this one. So the cooperation or our integration of work with this new launched project in EU for Resilience broadens the way of cooperation in a way that the decarbonization related aspects can be even more highlighted, and that we come in the combination in Team Europe to a more holistic approach, strategic approach. And this is the value of this project. And I also would like to take the opportunity here to thank all the implementing partners in the project, OECD, GIZ, but there will be many others in the further implementation of the project to support this. And once again, we can imagine that such type of approach can be replicated also in other areas, but with other topics in this region as well. And insofar, good luck with the project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jürgen. I would like to maybe give the opportunity to our Armenian partner to say a few words maybe about the future project and our future cooperation.
Dear colleague, I would like to make my speech very short for save our time. And the Republic of Armenia, as many countries, is highly vulnerable to climate change. And according to forecast, Armenia could experience warming as a level significantly above the global average. Warming rate will be higher in the months of July, September, which is a peak irrigation demand. And in this regard, adaptation to climate change and strengthening climate relations, particularly in the water sector, are among the priorities of Armenia. Thus, the water sector adaptation plan was the first sectoral adaptation plan adopted by the government of Armenia in November 2022. In the context of climate change, the drought are also considered a major problem in Armenia. According to the Natural Hazard Assessment Network, 98% of the land in Armenia is at risk of drought. Combined with climate change, longer drought are being observed, especially in the Arat Valley, which is a major agricultural zone in the country. Thus, we welcome very much the new initiative of the EU for climate releases and hope for a new project that, among other aspects, will also focus on the climate change and water issue. Thank you very much for your attention.
May I kindly ask our Georgian representative to come on stage? Thank you.
So, good afternoon, dear colleagues. It is my pleasure to be here today and represent the government of Georgia. Unfortunately, I could not join you this morning as I was traveling from Tbilisi to Brussels, but anyway, it's good that, that I'm here today, and I'm extremely delighted that we have an opportunity to launch a new project for our region, which is related to the climate change as such. We all understand and we know that climate change does not have borders and it affects all the countries of our region. We have our own challenges and specificities, but still we share those challenges. At the same time, what I would like to mention is that EU has been supporting us, Georgia, and of course entirely region for many, many years already in our climate agenda, and especially now when we are in the process of updating our nationally determined contribution documents, which is going to bring a new ambition for our countries, updated ambitions and increased ambitions. And also we are in the process of preparation our national adaptation plans. I would say that this project is extremely timely to support Georgian government in the development of various important strategic documents, as well as also covering some other important priorities. The previous EU for Climate project was extremely successful, very useful for Georgia, and there has been also a mention that EU supports its Eastern Partnership countries into the EU integration process, and after the fact that Georgia has been granted a candidate status and that we have loads of work in front of us, especially in alignment of our EU environmental acquis and climate acquis to the respective EU one, I would say that this project would help us also to align our national policies and legislation to the EU legislation, and as well as work towards its implementation. So once again, many thanks from our side. I want to wish our future partners, GIZ, OECD, to whom we have a very good partnership already in various fields, success, and we stand ready for our future successful cooperation as we've done before. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. We also have Ms. Irina Punga, the Deputy State Secretary from the Republic of Moldova, online. Here you are.
Good afternoon.
Please, over to you.
Dear partners and colleagues, I'm really pleased to participate in the launching event of this program, which I believe indeed is a continuation of outstanding work done in the regional program EU for Climate 2019-2023, which brought to the attention the importance of climate regional agenda and put a great background for coherent climate action in the countries. First of all, I want to thank you and partners for the constant support, without which it will be quite difficult to gain the momentary results and speed up, to have an access to technologies, to absorb the knowledge and to develop proper skills. The challenges posed by climate change are not distant threats, but pressing realities that demand our immediate attention and action. However, within these challenges lies an extraordinary opportunity, an opportunity to redefine our relationship with the environment and forge a path towards resilience and sustainability. The new program, Yo for Climate Resilience, starts a set of joint climate action to fulfill commitments at the global and regional agenda to enhance tangible results at national level. Through strategic investments, innovative solutions, and robust participation, we are confident that this Yo for Climate Resilience program will give us the tools and resources we need to build a climate resilient future. Moldova, as a EU candidate country, strongly commits to move towards climate neutrality. Approximation to EU climate and environment acquis and standard is a key priority for us. Recently, Moldova adopted the Climate Action Law, which is a main legal act for the state climate policy. And now there are another set of actions which we need to take in order to strengthening and mainstreaming climate actions into sectorial policies to move towards modern economic development and green transition as a backbone for long-term recovery and socio-economic resilience. I believe that program indeed will be a core supporting instrument to accelerate coherent climate actions, including carbon pricing, the digital transformation, clean energy, which are one of the priorities of Republic of Moldova, and for sure to foster regional cooperation, to enable sustainable development, to make a Green Deal sealed with results on the ground. In conclusion, let us take the launch of the Yo for Climate Resilience program as a call to action, a call to build a nation that is not only really resilient to the impacts of climate change, but one that thrives in harmony with nature. So I believe together, let us chart a course towards a future defined not by the challenges we face, but by the resilience, ingenuity, and solidarity with which we meet them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Punga, for your kind words. I would like now to give the opportunity to our two implementing partners to say a few words. And I would invite Mr. Oliver Schönweger to come on stage. He's representing GIZ, and he will be the coordinator of this project on GIZ side.
So, thank you very much. It's just me and Christoph standing between you and the lunch, the well-deserved lunch break we have. GIZ and myself, we are honored to be trusted by the EU and DG NEAR and BMUV to implement this project together with the partners in the 5 countries of the Eastern Partnership. We are ready to support you, our partners within the 5 countries, as well as the partners from the civil society. And besides having used this opportunity to hijack this conference today for this project launch, we will also have a project launch in each of the 5 countries timely as soon as possible, and then further define fit-for-purpose measures and activities with the partners together. We will leverage on the expertise we have as GIZ within those countries and the experience and networks we already established over the last decades as friendship and as well as friendships we made. We ensure that the project doesn't work in a silo, and that we are leveraging complementing projects and programs in place of GIZ, but also other implementation agencies and projects. And as well as the project which has been mentioned already a couple of times, the EU for Climate project, which has been implemented by UNDP over the last years. So there's a lot of pressure on us and OECD. So we are dedicated to start as soon as possible to support the the colleagues and the partners in the 5 countries. GSET and especially today myself, we are excited to hop on this journey and bring our expertise and commitment on the table and into the project for the next 4 years. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Oliver. Allow me to call Krzysztof Michałek on stage on behalf of OECD.
Thank you very much, and very briefly, on behalf of the OECD, I'd like to say we are very honored to be the implementing partner for the EU for climate resilience. The OECD will deal with the issues that we feel we are good at on economics and finance. Our primary objective will be to look at the finance of the climate, both mitigation and adaptation elements, with a particular focus on the promotion of green bonds that was mentioned earlier today as an innovative, interesting instrument that is being now applied widely in the region. We consider the project very important, but also we are aware of high expectations for the very concrete results for concrete policy and investment that follows the policy changes that should bring the reduction of the emissions, and then certainly the adaptation of the economy to the changes that are upon us. So we bring our engagement in the region, bringing the experience for all the projects and cooperation we've been doing in the Eastern Partnership countries, and also our multidisciplinary engagement on economic and finance experience, knowledge on this region. So we are ready to this challenge, and then looking forward for our cooperation. Thank you.
Well done, everyone, for those interventions. And we are 10 minutes ahead of schedule, which is wonderful. So well done to everyone. And that means we can have 10 minutes extra for lunch. So that completes the morning session. I think it was a great session. And this afternoon, we're going to take a bit of a deeper dive into some of the work we've done with EAP countries on economic instruments, subsidies, and also look to end the day with some innovative solutions and hope for the future. So it should be a good afternoon. Lunch will be served on the first floor. You're going to walk through the cocktail area. There's some stairs to go down. You can take the lift as well. The signposts all the way. We're looking for a room called J. Cook, I believe, and that's where lunch will be served. We need to be back here for 2:30, so 14:30, and we'll start again the next session. Thank you, everyone.